Hi there, chess kids. I want to introduce you to an amazing young chess player that you may not have heard of yet. But before we talk about him, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Maybe I'll be making a video about you one day. You don't want to miss that. 11-year-old Yej Erdemis is the 2022 ChessKid Youth Speed Chess Champion. He's almost 2460 FIDE and is about to get his international master title. What an amazing chess kid. He actually raised his rating 100 points over the summer while we were having the competition. He went in as a 2300 FM. He goes out as a 2460 IM. What an amazing kid. Now, he just beat candidate master Elon Schneider in the finals. How did he do it? Well, we're going to take a look at 3 key moments from the finals. Yej was black in this position, and I thought he was much worse, because after bishop to b2, the rook is in danger, and pawn f4 is still coming. If pawn f4, there's nowhere safe for the knight to move. But Yej finds the only move to keep black in the game and plays rook c5, correctly noticing that he can create a counterattack on white's knight. This is the only move to save your own knight, because after f4, you're still not going to find a safe place for the knight. And as we say on ChessKid, you're only allowed to answer an attack with an attack if you have no other options. And frankly, there are no other options. So Yej correctly plays rook takes d5. And after his knight is captured, he calmly takes back with the pawn and pins white's knight. He ended up winning the knight back and getting to an equal game and getting a draw, which was better than losing the knight. So awesome idea by Yej there, holding the balance by playing a couple of what we call only moves. Okay, let's take a look at the second great game that Yej played in the finals. Here he was white, and although he has 2 minor pieces for a rook, his king is in big trouble, and there's a lot of weak light squares around the king. Now, technically your king could go on a walk and probably survive, but I don't think that's a great practical idea. So what did he do instead? Well, he blocked with the knight. Blocked with the knight and just keeping the balance, keeping the tension on the first rank. Now, after Elon captured, white captured, and I still thought Yej was in big trouble because now there's one open file left and Elon's got the only rook on the board. Elon played rook to d8 and I was like, oh my goodness, white is actually going to get himself mated because this rook is going to come down to d1 and fork the queen and the knight, or it's going to come down and invade some other square. In fact, when the knight is pinned, the queen could even get to this square and then probably mate on g2 because the knight's pinned. I thought, oh my goodness, it's going to be a win for Elon. And then out of nowhere, bishop h6. And it's actually white who's checkmating black by force. That's right, what an amazing turning of the tables. He's like DJ Yej, turning some tables. Queen to g7 is mate, and you can't play f6 to block because the other bishop is pinning that pawn. There's just no defense here at all. Now black tried to push, but the queen just took that, and of course it's still going to be mate. So I was shocked by this result because it was defending, and Yej is turning into a counterattacking genius, as you've seen from the first 2 examples. The last example is the most impressive, if you ask me. This is the game that I think really got Yej the title, even though it was early on. Here, he was black, and he faced a brilliant attacking move, knight to g5. He had to play some practical chess. This knight is now discover attacked and being attacked twice, and if you move the knight, this knight's the only thing stopping queen invasions on h7. White could play the move knight to d5, and although black might be able to defend with perfect defense, certainly this is not very comfortable. So he makes a great practical decision. If we go back to the position after the move knight to g5, he played the move h6, which is actually a pawn sacrifice, because after bishop takes, again, yes, answering an attack with an attack, but when you're an IM, you know you can do that. Queen takes. He has lost a pawn. However, watch this brilliant idea. e5, discover attacking the white queen. Now, white's queen could go back to g3, but white decided to enter the endgame. After all, white is up a pawn. But after rook takes, the bishop is hanging, the bishop runs away. Quick trade, and now it turns out that Yej's control over the unbelievably strong d5 square gives him full compensation for the pawn. When I was going over this game live with women's grandmaster Kedi Satsalashvili, we didn't think white had an advantage at all. Computer actually agrees with us. Black has full compensation for the pawn. So imagine that. In the course of the last 5 moves, most of which have been forcing, he goes from facing a very fearsome attack where he could get himself mated in the middle game to a very comfortable endgame where, although he's down a pawn, the pawn is doubled, and he's the one with the happy pieces. He has the best knight, he has the best rook, and he's got a lot of play on the c file. He makes one more brilliant decision later in the game that I want to show you. So we're going to advance a couple of moves. White is guarding the c2 pawn. Of course, black is doubling up on the c file. White is trying to get the king in the game. And here comes the attack after a5, rook c1, and then we had the move b4. Now, here's how I thought the game was going to go. After Elon captured, I thought Yez was going to take, because that's the normal follow-up when you have two rooks in the c file, right? I thought black was going to hurry up and get his pawn back. But endgame transitions are so important. Here's what is almost certainly what would have happened. The knight would have gone back to e2, I believe. Okay, black would have recovered the pawn. And what would have happened here is we would have had a lot of trades. And then if Elon has wits about him, he would have played a move like king to e3, double attacking this knight. Of course, if the knight moves, you lose the rook. If you move the rook backward, the knight's in big trouble. So I think rook takes would have happened. And after king takes, let's just say the knights trade. Even if they don't trade, my point is going to be the same. And that is that white's king is much better than black's king in this position. I don't even know if black can hold this position, but my point is, like, if black tries to get the king in the game, look how much faster the white king is. And if black tries to get the king in the game here, then white can hold him off with g3, and the white king is very close to coming here and either gathering this pawn or coming in closer. If black can defend, it would be by some small miracle. I think white might actually be winning this. So let's go all the way back. And instead of just being in a hurry to get that pawn back, what Yez did was take with the rook, which was a brilliant decision, because this pawn is very hard to defend. If you move it forward, you hang the knight. If your rook moves sideways, you've got to be at least a little bit careful about rook takes. It's actually a little more complicated than it seems, but you at least have to give it some lip service. So white is already in some danger, and white decided to bail out with knight e2. The problem was, now after takes, clearly black is better in this position because black's rooks are doing the attacking. This is the weakest pawn in white's army, and black has an outside passed pawn, which ended up winning the game. Now the players are very low on time, but I will just show you the finish. The black pawn again is in big trouble, and after takes, unfortunately, white decided to guard the g2 pawn. White's probably already lost anyway, but by going backward, the very simple move rook b2 wins the game because the passed a pawn decides matters. Rook b1 check is unstoppable. I just loved how he turned what could have been a worse middle game where he was the one defending into a much better end game where he wasn't in a huge hurry to get his pawn back, but he recognized those positional advantages and he got the job done. That's a name to remember. International Master-elect Yez Erdemis of Turkey, our 2022 ChessKid Youth Speed Chess Champion, and a very worthy one at that.